Negative. I was waiting for confirmation.
Go ahead and tone hazmat, please. All personnel report to Trillium Theater for staging at this time. Yes. Hazmat 2.
Copy. Reporting to Trillium Theater.
Affirmative for staging. Hazmat 1, Hazmat 2. Go Hazmat 2 for 1. If you need me back there, I'll just save my crew. Are you still up in staging?
Wow.
I'll meet you face to face. In station in the parking lot. Go back to ground 2.
Look at the smoke still coming from that church.
MR Bravo 896 at Tier 2 with PD, Flint Township. 896, Cronin Ballinger. You'll see PD on the scene at Miller and Austin Parkway. Miller and Austin Parkway for due deployment.
Staging for Burton, Chief 1. Chief 1, go ahead. Staging, I'm sending the Fenton Township unit to the Alpha Delta corner.
ATF.
Start putting out fire. Copy, Alpha Delta.
Genesee County Hazmat respond on Fireground 2 to 4285, 4285 McCandless Road at Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints across the Holly. They're requesting you to stage at the Trillium Theater off of Holly Road. You're going to be on Fireground 2 at 1249. Genesee County Hazmat respond on Fairground 2 to 4285, 4285 McCandless Road at Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints across the Holly. There's a structure fire there. They're requesting you. They'd like you to stage at the Trillium Theater off of Holly on Fairground 2 at 1250. 896.
Genesee Federal Hazmat, Tax 12.
896, what?
MR hour showing going to Fireground 2.
At 1256, just confirming we're meeting.
Operations from interior. Center Hazmat, Tech 3.
Go ahead.
You can show me around to the Seabird. Command from operations.
At 1251.
Central Hazmat, Tech 10. You can also show me around.
The press conference is supposed to be at 1. I don't know if we'll have video of it. I'll do my best. The problem is the press conference.
Township, Engine 3 from interior.
The press conference is at the police department.
Is there a way we can shut down the red line and add about 300 feet to it? Clear. We're ready to shut down when you are. Okay. Command from Burton, Chief 1. Command from Burton, Chief 1. Chief 1.
Page right Alpha 194.
194, go ahead.
The vicinity of the church. It's unclear as to whether there was a service happening at the time of the church, but we do know that the church itself is now fully engulfed in flames. And we were hearing from our Fox 2 Detroit team stating that that makes it challenging, one, to get to the scene, but also when it comes to evidence, because a lot of the evidence may have been burned in the fire, including, we were hearing, the surveillance cameras there inside that might have captured what happened and the moments that led up. So this is a live look right here. You can see that the photographer is currently on the move. We are expecting to have an update from police in just a matter of moments, but you can see the heavy response still at the scene as we are waiting for more information. But we do know that the FBI and ATF agents are there en route. In fact, we did see an ATF agent already there on scene, as this is going to be a multi-agency response. They're going to be looking into a motive. Could this have been a hate crime? We do not know that at the time. We do not know what the motive was. We do not know who the shooter is. We do know that the shooter is down, and typically that is the phrasing when they are maybe have been shot. We don't have that information, but we are waiting to hear a little bit more from police. You can see that the media is being kept a very long distance away from the scene because the church is currently on fire, and you can see the smoke billowing in the distance. And that makes it a very dangerous situation. We were seeing people with masks on, likely because of the heavy smoke that makes the air quality very challenging. And if you don't have the proper equipment to protect yourself, that can be very dangerous for folks. But a live look right here from the scene as we are working to gather more information after there was an active shooter at the Church of Latter-day Saints. This is on McCandish Road, and if you're familiar with the area, that is where it is. And I took a look at Google Maps. This is next to a residential area, so there are homes that are lining this street. There's also then a little bit further some commercial buildings there as well. But you can imagine on a Sunday when people do go to church, and congregate there, a place of worship that has been targeted, it seems, by a shooter, the church itself set on fire. Very disturbing. And we were hearing from FBI Director Kash Patel, Attorney General Pam Bondi, calling this a horrific shooting and heartbreaking and chilling. Those are the words of Attorney General Pam Bondi right there. So if you're just joining us, this is the statement that Attorney General Pam Bondi just issued moments ago, saying that I am receiving briefings about what appears to be a horrific shooting at an LDS church in Grand Blanc. And it does look like we have a live look. I just wanted to share this with you. It looks like we have a live look here inside the police department. This just came into our newsroom right here. So we do see the podium established right there as we are awaiting the very latest from police. In fact, you can see the Grand Blanc Township logo there in the background, and we are expecting to hear more information. So as we do so, I did want to share once again a live look at the scene, and it does look like, unfortunately, this live look has frozen. We've been sharing with you these live looks right here. As you can imagine, it is spotty, but now it's transitioned into this, which is the podium that has been set up for the update from police. We are anticipating that to get underway in just a matter of moments, as we are expecting to hear just a little bit more from police after multiple people were shot at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. And sharing with you a little bit more of the timeline right here. This happened just approximately an hour ago. That is when the information was shared, but multiple people have been shot. The shooter is down. This occurred at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc. That is, just to give you a little bit more context and perspective, that's about 50 miles north of Detroit. Unfortunately, it does look like that live look has ended, but this is another viewpoint of that very same live look inside the police department, as we are expecting to hear more information. So the police saying that there is no threat to the public. The shooter is down. What is happening right now, though, that continues to make it challenging as they work to assess the number of injured, the extent of the injuries, gathering more information about the shooter. And we do see, it looks like they're just about to get underway. Let's listen in.
Make sure that everybody's ready. So, everybody ready? Okay. Hi, I'm Grambling Township Police Chief William Rennie. That's R-E-N-Y-E. Here to give you some preliminary details on an incident that happened earlier today at 10:25 a.m. within Grambling Township. First off, I'd like to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of this incident, which is completely unnecessary and avoidable. The incident that we're going to talk about here today, as I said, was happened at 10:25 a.m. at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is located at 4285 McCandless Road. During this incident, what we know right now is that a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, he's a male, he drove his vehicle through the front doors of the church. He then exited his vehicle, firing several rounds at individuals within the church. 10 gunshot victims have been transported to local hospitals at this time, including one who has been deceased. Officers who were trained immediately responded to the area. One was a DNR officer, and then one was a Grambling Township officer, where they met the suspect and they engaged in gunfire with that particular individual, neutralizing that suspect. And that suspect is no longer with us. As I said, it is a 40-year-old male from Burton. During all this incident as well, there was a fire that occurred, and we believe that that was deliberately set by the suspect. We do believe that we will find additional victims once we have that scene secure. That fire was just extinguished by the Grambling Township Fire Department within the past hour. So where we go from here is we have investigators. We're going to do search warrants on the suspect's residence. We're going to find out if there was a motive. We're going to go through cell phone records, things like that. We have the FBI, they're devoting 100 agents to this area because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of witnesses that were within the church, and that is a lot of witness information, statements that we have to obtain. So I'd like to thank all the agencies who responded, the City of Grambling, Genesee County, Oakland County Sheriff's Office, Flint Township Police Department, the DNR, the State Police, and the ATF. I will provide additional information for you at 5 p.m., but I am willing to take any questions that you have that I could possibly answer right now.
Chief, can you talk about the kind of the progress of events? Did the suspect set the fire, then get back inside of his vehicle and then ran the front door, or did it all happen at the same time?
So from what I understand, and again, this is just a preliminary investigation right now, from what I have been briefed on, is that he rammed the vehicle through the front door, exited, then started firing shots. We are still trying to determine exactly when and where that fire ended up coming from and how it got started. So we believe it was deliberately set, though, by the suspect.
Were they in an active service when this happened?
Yes, the service was active. There was hundreds of people within the church.
Are you sure it's only one suspect at this point, or is it possible other people helped setting the fire, what have you?
Yes, it is one suspect that we know of at this point. We do not believe that there's a threat to the public. We believe that we have the guy who did this.
Any?
Sir.
Could you comment at all on the severity of the injuries at this time?
We have a couple in critical condition. Like I said, one is deceased. The rest of them are in stable condition.
So a couple, meaning three or two, I'm sorry.
One deceased, the suspect is deceased as well. And then multiple victims are in critical condition. We do believe that we will find some additional victims once we find the area where the fire was.
Any word on the weapon yet?
An assault rifle.
So, any, as far as ammunition, did he have a lot of ammunition?
That I don't know of yet, and I could get you later.
Okay.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Was the suspect known to authorities, and do you have any connection to anyone who was in that church?
Right now, we don't have any of that information, but I'm confident that our investigators, along with the FBI, we're going to end up uncovering all that information and provide that at a later time for you.
Chief, to clarify, you said there may be additional victims like inside the church or?
Yes, where the fire was. So, and the reason why we can't confirm that just yet is because it was a large fire, and we do believe that there was people up there that were near that fire and they were unable to get out of the church. So we do believe that we will find additional victims once we're able to search that, once there's no signs of a fire reigniting.
So do you believe then that the victims that are still there, they succumbed to fire injuries or gunshots, or you're not sure?
That I'm not sure, but I could provide all that information hopefully at 5 p.m.
The shots were fired.
Shots were fired,
Sorry,
yes.
and he had no idea how many though at this point.
No idea how many at this time.
Can you
Sure.
describe the church? Is there like a worship area and then like a gathering space or something like that? I mean, can you...
That I have not been in, so I can't tell you the layout.
Chief, can you kind of describe the process of how things change for tactical response when there's an active fire? Every training I've seen, it's always been a building that has not been on fire. So how do you then deal with an active shooter when you have that situation happening as well?
Well, we are here at Grand Blanc Township, and there's a lot of agencies within the state of Michigan. We are specifically trained to go right to the threat in an active shooter situation. And I'm proud of my guys and the DNR who responded to this scene, who immediately took that suspect out. So there was no additional victims. So it was a great job by our staff. Okay.
So it was a law enforcement officer that neutralized the suspect?
Yes, there was 2 law enforcement officers involved. I will be back here at 5 p.m. to give you additional information and hopefully answer some of the questions that you guys went over here today. So, okay. Supervisor Bennett.
I can just go sit in here. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Hello, Scott Bennett, Grand Blanc Township Supervisor. Scott, S-C-O-T-T, Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T. First, let me say we are heartbroken. This kind of violence doesn't happen in our community, and we are heartbroken that it came to Grand Blanc Township. And we're going to do everything we can to support the families, the victims, and our community getting through this situation. And it's something that no community ever wants to have. And we're going to do our best to do everything we can. We appreciate the outpouring of support from our elected leaders from both national and state in offering their assistance. And we probably will take them up on their offers. So we appreciate that very much. And we appreciate the community reaching out to us also. So the details are yet to come, as Chief Rennie has said. And we'll wait for a little bit later today when we have the rest of the situation assessed. But it may take a little while to do that. But thank you for all the support. And I'm sure that the families and the victims are going to need that. It's a tragedy that nobody wants to encounter. Thank you.
Chief, before you step out, can you go over the process for family members, where you want them to go, who they should call to get more information and reunification?
Yeah, so those family members, they are in a secure area right now. They have been taken over to Trillium. So that's where the FBI will interview them and then release them from there. So
I mean, in terms of anybody who might be at home who was not there, who wants to check in to see if their loved one is okay, is there a number or a place that you want them to go?
yes, you could call the Grand Blanc Township Police Department, 810-424-2666. 2611. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
That's the very latest information from the police chief and the Grand Blanc Township, Michigan supervisor. As we're hearing more information, if you're just joining us, I did want to recap what we've just learned from police. A 40-year-old male suspect from Burton, Michigan, is now dead after police say he drove his vehicle through the front door of a Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. He then got out of the vehicle, fired several rounds inside the church with what police say was an assault rifle. Police say they do not believe there is currently a threat to the public, and they believe that they have the man who did it. Police officers engaged with the gunman after they responded to the shooting inside the church. They say the police officers neutralized the suspect, meaning they shot and killed the gunman, and the gunman is now dead. Beyond what we were just hearing from police, we do not have the name of the suspect. We do know that police have said that he is a 40-year-old male suspect from Burton, Michigan. Unfortunately, a live look there inside the Grand Blanc Township Police Department does appear to be frozen right now. I also wanted to share some drone video with you because there was a fire there as well. So this is new video into our Live Now from Fox Studios. This is via Storyful, and you can see the massive fire at this church. Police do believe that the gunman deliberately set the church on fire. They say there was a church service underway when all of this occurred. Police say there were hundreds of individuals inside the church when all of this unfolded right here. At this point in time, police say 10 gunshot victims were transported to local hospitals, including one who died. Several are currently in critical condition, while the others are in stable condition. And we were hearing from the police chief that unfortunately they do believe they will find additional victims inside because of the fire. You can see that it was just catastrophic in nature. The flames that we're seeing coming from the roof right there. This is from a little bit ago, and we were just hearing from the police chief that they were able to extinguish the fire in just the past hour or so. And the police chief says what they're going to be doing from here is, one, they're going to be obtaining and executing search warrants for the gunman's home. They're going to be searching for a possible motive. They're going to be combing through cell phone records, and they are going to be questioning witnesses who were there when all of this unfolded. We have also heard that they will have another update at 5 p.m. local time. So this is some new video into our Live Now from Fox Studio. As you can see, the massive fire that took place at this Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. Police say they do believe that the fire was intentionally set, likely by the gunman, who has now died after a shootout with police. They have identified that suspect as a 40-year-old male from Burton, Michigan, who they say drove his vehicle through the front door of this church in Grand Blanc, Michigan, while a service was underway. Hundreds of people inside the church. Police say the gunman then got out, fired several rounds with an assault rifle into the church. And right now, there have been 10 gunshot victims identified, transported to the local hospital. Unfortunately, one of those victims died from their injuries. Several remain in critical condition, while others are currently in stable condition. The gunman is dead after police officers responded to the scene and engaged with the gunman. There was also a fire that occurred during all of this. Police do believe that the fire was deliberately set, and because of the intensity of the fire that you can see right there from this drone video, firefighters were unable to get access inside the church itself. And because of that, they do believe that they will find additional victims once they are able to safely get inside. The church itself is a total loss, and the fire itself was extinguished just about an hour or so ago. So we did want to share that with you. Meanwhile, my producer Julianne sharing this with me, President Trump has now issued a statement saying, quote, "I have been briefed on the horrendous shooting that took place at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Lake, Michigan. The FBI was immediately on scene and will be leading the federal investigation and providing full support to state and local officials. The suspect is dead, but there is still a lot to learn. This appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States of America. The Trump administration will keep the public posted, as we always do. In the meantime, pray for the victims and their families. This epidemic of violence in our country must end immediately." So that is a statement that President Trump has just issued. And we were sharing with you Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, also reacting to this tragedy, stating that FBI and the ATF are currently there on scene to help assist in this. And we were hearing from the police chief stating that one of their priorities is to determine a motive. They are going to be requesting and executing search warrants, including at the gunman's home. They are going to be combing through cell phone records to try and understand why this tragedy happened. We do know that there was a service underway inside the church at the time of the shooting and the fire. The police chief stating that hundreds of individuals were inside the church at the time, and you can get a better view of where all of this unfolded in Grand Lake, Michigan. This was a very large Mormon church. It was surrounded by woods, but also right next to a residential area. So we did want to share that with you. And I did just read to you the statement from President Trump, but this is via his social media platform, stating that he has been briefed on the horrendous shooting that took place at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Lake, Michigan. The FBI immediately on scene and will be leading the federal investigation and providing full support to state and local officials. We are continuing to follow the very latest on this. And I did also want to share this with you. This is just a different scene from just a little earlier, and you can see the very heavy first response. At this point in time, the fire was still active, and you can see the thick smoke, making it incredibly challenging for first responders to try and get access into the church. It was too dangerous, and because of that, the complete number of individuals who were injured or possibly perished is still unknown, as they are expecting to find more victims inside the church once they're able to safely access. The fire was so catastrophic that they were they were prevented from safely getting inside right there. But now that the fire has been extinguished, that is one of the next steps that will be taken underway. We are working to bring on experts, and we are hoping to speak with former FBI agent Scott Duffy once he's able to join us. But in the meantime, our Fox 2 Detroit team continues to follow that coverage. And for more on that, we do want to head over there right now.
I'm sure you could see that smoke billowing for miles and miles, just letting you know just how horrific the situation is. Again, police do believe that this fire was purposely set by the suspected shooter in this case. They're just trying to figure out the timeline, though, with the fire. They don't know exactly, if it happened prior to the shooting, after the shooting, in the middle of the shooting. Again, all of that still yet to be determined and will likely become much clearer during that press conference at 5 o'clock.
And how this fire got so out of hand. Usually you set a little something on fire and it's contained to one particular area, but this fire is a tremendous fire that we say is fully engulfed. I think that's a fair statement here. Once the roof goes and you can see the flames and the smoke, and it's not a particularly big church, but the hundreds of people, though, were in the church at the time, and that's key. He certainly presumably knew what he was doing when he set this fire at a church service on a Sunday of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township.
Yeah, Charlie, this does appear to be very calculated, very planned out. Police are saying that he arrived at the church right around 10:25 in the morning, and that he rammed his vehicle into the front doors of that church, then got out and started firing at the many parishioners inside. We know that there were hundreds and hundreds of parishioners that were seated for this service inside the Church of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township, presumably, hoping to have, just a normal Saturday, or Sunday, perhaps get some inspiration, while being in church, feeling some fellowship, being around, your family and friends, and to have something like this transpire. You do not imagine a shooting at a church. And unfortunately, we saw that happen a couple months ago here in Detroit as well.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. The video that you're looking at right now was taken about an hour or so ago. This is not live video, but you can see the extent of the smoke, of the fire that fully engulfed this church in Grand Blanc. We do know, and the police chief just confirmed it, that although there are 10 people that are victims, the chief believes that there may be more inside that church that were just unable to get out. And so that number could go higher. Also, the shooter, we know that shooter is dead. He's a 40-year-old man from Burton. I don't believe that's too far from Grand Blanc Township, but we do not know the relationship between the shooter and the church. Was he a parishioner? Did he know someone there? Did he try to make a statement? We just don't know. The police, we do know that not only police, but the FBI on the scene as we speak, interviewing many of those hundreds of people that were inside the church for any kind of clues. This is protocol right now. Those victims that were removed from the church, I call them victims because they suffered, as Robin, I think you mentioned too, a tragic situation, having to run out of there. But nevertheless, they've been excluded right now away from any of the media because this is an active scene and an active investigation now being conducted apparently by the FBI. You just read a statement from Pam Bundy. Yeah. And so this is an active scene. Again, the feds, state and local authorities are involved.
Yeah, Charlie, President Donald Trump is also getting word of exactly what is going on. He is weighing in on social media. He says in a statement, I have been briefed on the horrendous shooting that took place at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. The president says the FBI was immediately on scene and will be leading the federal investigation and providing full support to state and local officials. He says that the suspect is dead, but there's still a lot to learn. This appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States of America. This is according to President Donald Trump. The Trump administration will keep the public posted, as we always do. The president says, in the meantime, pray for the victims and pray for their families. This epidemic of violence in our country must end immediately. End quote. Again, that is President Donald Trump reacting to the shooting that we had here at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township.
We do thank our Fox 2 Detroit team for that coverage as we also continue to follow the breaking news. President Trump now reacting to the shooting at a Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. Right now, officials are looking into a motive, but we were just hearing that statement from President Trump that I have right here in front of me saying, quote, "This appears to be yet another targeted attack on Christians in the United States of America. The Trump administration will keep the public posted, as we always do. In the meantime, pray for the victims and their families." And to speak more on this, I do want to bring in former FBI agent Scott Duffy as we continue our live coverage right here. Scott, we appreciate you joining us on Live Now from Fox.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you.
And before we start, really getting into this, I did want to recap for our viewers if they're just joining us. We just heard from the police chief and the Grand Blanc Township supervisor, the very latest in this breaking news. As we know, one person has died. The gunman himself is also dead. At least 10 other individuals have been transported to hospitals after being shot, several of them remaining in critical condition at this hour. The gunman they identified only as a 40-year-old male from Burton, Michigan. They say he drove his vehicle right through the front doors of this Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. He got out, opened fire into a service that was underway with hundreds of individuals. The police responded. The police neutralized the gunman, but there was also a fire they believe that was intentionally set. Right now, of course, they're still looking for a motive, Scott. This is really quickly developing right here, still a very active scene. What can you share with us about the information that police have provided to us? We do know that they're looking into a motive, but this happened during a church service when a gunman intentionally drove his vehicle through the front doors and started opening fire.
Yeah. So of course, my heart is continues to mourn yet another tragedy where we see on a Sunday morning of all days, where what have we been seeing, especially in these last couple of weeks, with school shootings, church shootings, and then of course the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So these active shooter situations, ultimately law enforcement is going to arrive. They're going to do exactly what they do best, and that is neutralize a threat. In this particular case, on this Sunday morning, that I'm sorry. So in this particular one, we have an individual that has done at least three things with regards to an active shooter threat, not only open firing, but using a vehicle. We have seen vehicles that have been used to attack people in public places. And then, of course, the trifecta of setting a fire. What I would be looking at as an investigator is, what is the chronology and what was the intention of this individual? Was his intention having possibly set fires at exit points, entrance points, preventing people from being able to get out? Did he want to go in with the intention of doing the most harm in the shortest period of time, as active shooters tend to do, and then set a fire for anyone that is trying to escape, to ultimately cause more damage? And then, of course, this individual using his vehicle to ram the entrance doors and to gain access tells a lot about this individual. Is this individual, what is the connection of this individual to the church? Is it a grievance against the church, against the Latter-day Saints as a greater grievance? Is it a domestic where this person has a grievance against somebody that a spouse or whatever have you, and trying to do harm to this person, and everybody else is sort of collateral damage in this person's mind? So there's a lot that goes into, first and foremost, trying to neutralize the threat, which they have, get the victims to EMS, to hospitals, etc. And then, as I can see on camera, this massive fire. This is not a typical fire that you would see. If somebody, just trying to light things, it is tough to light a fire without some sort of intention, with incendiary devices. What is this person using to ensure the massive amount of flames? And it would seem that this person has affected tremendous harm in a very short period of time.
And Scott, we're taking a look at some drone video of this fire. You were talking about the magnitude of this fire and how it's difficult to create a fire of this magnitude right here. And I wanted to ask you that because police do believe that the fire was intentionally set. It does look like for maximum destruction, maximum damage. We were hearing from our Fox 2 Detroit team also stating that this could make it a little more challenging for officials because the building itself is going to be a total loss, and you typically there are cameras inside the church, which I imagine they would be destroyed, and thereby destroying some of the evidence that might help them when it came to the moments leading up to this tragedy, and possibly an indication of a motive or anything of that sort.
Yeah, this person had tremendous amount of anger, and I do not think from everything that seems, I mean, this person has incorporated everything into this attack, and time will tell as to what this person's particular motive was. Was it for a particular individual inside the church, or was it just the congregation at whole? But this person using a vehicle, so similar to 9/11 or whatnot, what the planes were used as weapons because of the massive amount of fuel. So you have a vehicle. Is the vehicle the starting point of this fire, and tremendous amount of gasoline, and to just continue on with the fire within the church? But this is a total engulfed fire that it would tell me that this individual perhaps took the time to set around the perimeter, particularly the entrance doors, etc., some sort of incendiary device, and then ultimately using the vehicle to gain access. I don't know if this church has security on premise where this person is aware of the different security protocols and felt that this was going to be the only way for them to gain access and to do what they did. But unfortunately, this individual has achieved his goal, and it's just a very tragic and traumatic experience for every congregant there at the Latter-day Saints. It's just extremely sad to watch.
And it just strikes fear into anyone's heart, in that typically houses of worship are safe havens, and that seems to be no longer the case. And we've seen previous incidents. I also wanted to ask you this, Scott, because we were hearing from the police chief indicating that the gunman had an assault rifle, and I imagine that was also meant to that particular weapon is used to create just massive damage and injuries. Can you speak to any insight that you can get from what we know of the weapon used?
Yeah, so and we have been seeing this, unfortunately, as a common practice, which it ultimately brings in the arguments of the assault weapon and so forth. So typically what we have seen a few times in recent past is the sniper, a sniper from afar who cannot ordinarily be detected by law enforcement if law enforcement is on the ground. And the sniper can either target a specific individual, as we saw with Charlie Kirk, or just start shooting people indiscriminately from a higher elevation and without being detected. And then, of course, you have your assault weapon, somebody who's going to come in who is looking to do what we call the greatest amount of damage in the shortest period of time. And you do that with an assault weapon. And that person can come into a very populated area and then just start indiscriminately shooting with no particular person in mind. They just want to do that much damage. And ordinarily, we have seen that the shooter typically doesn't make it out, whether it is because of law enforcement intervention or because of them taking their own life. And so time and time again, we see this type of active shooter situation where that says a lot about the mindset. I'm going in not to just do harm to one particular person I have a grievance with, but I'm just upset with everybody. It's very irrational. It's very difficult to understand because ultimately it is an irrational act of them leveraging their grievance against who or whatever inside that church or wherever the target may be at school business. So the assault rifle, yes, it is designed to do the most damage in the shortest period of time. And we are seeing this unfold again and again, where people are just are getting their hands on these weapons and doing this type of harm to people, which is
and we're sharing some previously recorded scene video from shortly after police responded. It's a little glitchy, but we did want to share with our viewers, if they're just joining us, what all of this looked like right here. And you can see the smoke from the ground level of the church. And to your point, Scott, we don't yet know particularly what the motive was. We don't know what the mindset was, but we can see from the sheer amount of destruction that this wasn't perhaps against one individual, but perhaps, a larger grievance of some sort. And talking about, looking into a motive, I have to imagine, as we've seen from previous tragedies in the past, that there have been concerning conversations that have worried and concerned, maybe whether it be family or friends, maybe it be coworkers, that there always seems to be these red flags before this event. It doesn't come out of just thin air. And, talking about the search warrants and the cell phone records, when you take a look at something like this, do you anticipate people coming forward and stating that, they were concerned and there perhaps had been some radicalization of some sorts? Do you think that might be something that we will be learning a little bit more about?
Oh, definitely. We'll be learning that as the days to come with regards to the FBI's investigation. And like many active shooter situations, mass attacks, the FBI is often in the assist role because of their ability to garnish resources from all over the country, with the request of usually the local police chief, of the local special agent in charge. And in this particular situation, because you have a church, it's not a far leap to say that this very much could have been a federal crime. And that is not just a mass attack, but you have an attack on a church. And so thereby you could easily denote some sort of hate crime, even though later, after all the digital media and the investigation show that it may be a domestic gone bad. Ultimately, the FBI in this case can be working this right at the shoot with regards to it being a church, and the hate crime is not a far leap in order to have the FBI as the primary in this case. But yet we've seen tragedy just unfold within the last couple of weeks of a domestic gone bad with regards to the killings of 3 York County detectives. And so it is a domestic that turns into a mass attack, and ultimately just the continued domino effect of this irrational behavior of anger, grievance, and then ultimately to mass shootings, mass attacks. And we'll see as the days come that you are so right with regards to, is there leakage, whether it be a family member, a friend, or somebody that said, yes, this person had been talking about it, maybe in small circles, maybe some sort of digital media communication, but somewhere. I would be very surprised if there was not some indication, some red flag that again yet went unnoticed.
And we are continuing to follow the very latest. Our Fox 2 Detroit team does appear to have a reporter there on the ground. So, Scott, I'm just going to raise the audio for that reporter. We'll listen along and then we can continue our chat.
Real time, a very active investigation. We left that press conference at the Grand Blanc Township Police Department. We're now back here at the scene. As you can see, just right now, Michigan State Police, they are heading in to help with this investigation. Obviously, numerous police agencies are here on site. Now, again, the chief gave us as much as he could. I mean, just to recap that, we know that a 40-year-old burdened man, he was in the vehicle that slammed through the doors of this church. At the time, he actively started firing a round of shots. 10 people were actually victimized. They were shot. We do know that one's dead, including obviously the shooter as well. That's when they were saying that the shooter is down. That's what they meant. He is actually deceased. We don't know a lot about this 40-year-old burdened man. They did say that they were going to actively be looking through like social media accounts and different things. Another thing that we were told, the FBI, they are sending 100 investigators to help with this, and primarily because of the number of people in the church. These 100 agents are going to have to speak to these eyewitnesses. That's exactly what they are, eyewitnesses, and really kind of tell these agents, FBI agents, what they saw, what they heard to help with this investigation. So that's one thing that we did learn. We also learned that although right now they're telling us 10, they believe that there are more victims. Unfortunately, that fire, there were people around that fire, and they believe that some of those people may be deceased. So again, we're waiting to hear more. There's going to be a press conference at 5 o'clock. What started this and what actually caused this person to do that? That's the $1 million question. I mean, we don't know. Was he a former member of this church? Did he go to the church? We don't know those questions. And police hopefully, go ahead, Shirley.
So we were just listening to our Fox 2 Detroit coverage of that. But I did want to bring back in former FBI agent Scott Duffy as we take a live look, a different vantage point of this scene right here. And Scott, you can see that it's still incredibly active at this hour. We are expecting to hear a little bit more from police at 5 p.m. local time. But I wanted to ask you that because, that's in just a few hours. What do you expect police will be able to share further beyond what they already had at this initial press conference?
Well, I would imagine, especially at 5 o'clock, so you're still quite a few hours away. You'll have additional details with regards to a potential number of those who might have been critical that are no longer with us. So you'll probably have a little more of a breakdown of the numbers of victims, but totally agree with the reporter. This is a massive fire. It's not just a fire that erupted as a result of something and then was quickly put out. So you have what typically would be law enforcement, crime scene investigators going in and securing the scene now that the threat has been neutralized. The threat, and that is now the threat of fire, has not been neutralized. So that active crime scene cannot be entered, and very well possible additional victims that are within the walls of that church, and which again continues to be so tragic. So I would imagine if the fire is able to be brought under control where investigators could get in and then and look for additional victims. And so I imagine they'll also have a little bit of an idea of the connection of this individual, the shooter, to the church or to anyone within the church.
Scott, I want to go back to something that you had touched upon previously, which was the fact that this gunman used his vehicle as the initial weapon, driving through the front doors of this church before getting out and firing rounds with an assault rifle. We were taking a look at some video previously of the fire that you had stated was, it's not usual. It's incredibly large. And I wonder whether the vehicle itself was part of that thought process with the gas tank, because you have gas inside with the fuel, which is incredibly explosive. Could that have been part of the plan by the gunman in order to create the maximum amount of devastation and destruction.
Yeah, totally agree. I would, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility and very much at the top of the list, a part of the plan that if, let's just say this person plans some sort of other devices outside of his car and his car ultimately to be that final entry point, and then perhaps also being the trigger, the igniting the fire. I did, and I don't know if it's been confirmed. At one time, I heard a report that the person was in their car. So did they exit or did they fire from their open window? That will remain to be determined. But ultimately, this person believed that they needed to use their car first and foremost as a weapon, and whether you're trampling over people, gaining access, it will be interesting to see as the chronology of, hey, surveillance video that is able to see, hey, this individual arrived, did certain things in and out of his car, then gets into his car and so forth, as opposed to an individual who just makes a decision, a very rash decision, to all of a sudden floor it and at a high rate ram the church. I would imagine at some sort of an entry point of a entrance door, and then be able to fire indiscriminately with that assault weapon.
And Scott, I also wanted to ask you this. You know, you were talking about the car, and just to give our viewers a little understanding, in terms of the power of the vehicle, we don't know exactly the make or the model, but I would have to imagine that this gunman would have had to be traveling at a relatively high rate of speed to be able to barrel through front doors into a church. I have to imagine that was an incredibly, fast.
Yeah, which also to me takes a little bit of the planning. So, for example, my church, seeing churches on my travel, you can pretty much determine, hey, there are churches, synagogues, whatever places of worship that you can gain entrance without any stairwell, any staircase. And so thereby you see these doors that typically you have at least two, if not more doors. And you can walk right from your parking lot into your place of worship. And then you may have other sides of your place of worship that has staircases. And so thereby you're not going to use a vehicle you're not going to be able to do it. So I would imagine this person has some sort of connection to this church, and or at the very least spent a little bit of time surveilling and determining, this is going to be my point of entry, and I'm going to be able to do it with a weapon. That could also be, if you have, in this particular case, a church that has armed security, and this person knows it. It's like, if I'm going to be met with firepower, so let me at least use my car. First and foremost, I'm going to do damage. I'm going to be able to gain access to this church. I'm going to be able to hurt people because I know that wherever there is some sort of entry very close to are usually your congregants, some sort of pews or chairs. So this person, my guess, once they made that determination to use their vehicle, it is a tremendous speed to be able to get your car up and going, and then be able to plow through, which I would imagine are some pretty heavy doors, at least from the churches that in my area that I've seen, that it would take some force to be able to actually, you don't want to get wedged, right? And so the person knows, I got to be able to maximize the use of force, get myself into that church, and then be able to start firing, knowing also now there's going to be a fire. And I don't think this person was planning at all at some sort of escape route.
And also, to your point, it almost seems as though the gunman would have been somewhat familiar with the church. As you mentioned, the person obviously knew that he could drive through the front doors. and perhaps, like you said, there weren't necessarily stairs that would impede, the travel process of it. But I would imagine that, because of all of that, the gunman did appear to at least be somewhat familiar with the area, even in terms of driving down the street, in terms of the rate of speed, in terms of where, he anticipated the entry point into the church itself before, firing upon the congregants.
Yeah, this took some planning on this individual's part to be able to know that, for example, not having seen the church outside of the pictures that we're seeing of being totally engulfed in flames, where what did the church look like before with relation to the parking lot, with relation to ground entrance doorways and being able to gain access, and then determining that once this person made a decision, I'm going to use my vehicle to gain entrance and then continue on with my wreaking of havoc, that this is going to be the door. That's why I would believe this person probably had been inside that church to know that a particular door, if there are several doors that this person could have chosen at any point to ram with a car, that they chose a specific doorway to do what they were planning on doing, as opposed to just, hey, there's a door, I'm going to randomly ram it with my car, because they don't know what's on the other side of that door. There could be some sort of barrier that would not have allowed that car, would have immediately stopped it, something within that church. So this tells me that if this person was able to do that, gain access, more than likely with a full tank of gas, because that's another part of utilization of damage, that this person knew what was on the other side of that door and probably had some sort of previous contact, if not a congregant, at least stepped inside that church at least once to get an idea of what was
Scott, I also wanted to ask you this, because as we've been taking live looks at the scene right here, we did see a bomb squad, a vehicle exit. And I have to imagine that there is concern, and we've seen this in previous situations where eventually there might be multiple scenes, including, at the gunman's residence, and I have to imagine part of the concern is, could there be additional scenes with booby traps and such? Or even in this particular vicinity, as the investigation continues, what is the process to, and they said no threat to the public, but again, the investigation is still evolving.
Yeah, and I would imagine when law enforcement says no threat to the public, they feel reasonable sure that the public there in and around the congregation of the Latter-day Saints, that the public there has nothing to fear with regards to additional shooter. The shooter has been neutralized, and law enforcement has definitely created a tremendous perimeter. So thereby, nobody should worry within their homes, residences, nearby businesses. However, you are absolutely right. If there is evidence that this person had planted some sort of incendiary devices that would go off with some sort of trigger, that this person was able to perhaps create explosions as opposed to just lighting a fire. That's a tremendous fire that I cannot believe just happened by accident. That if it would tell me this person had planned it, and in other areas around the perimeter of the church. And then, of course, now what's law enforcement going to do? They're going to find where this person's from and then take a tremendous amount of precautions with regards to making entries once they've started their initial searches. And so when this person has storage bins in his name, his very residence, if he has at least one or multiple, that the bomb squad, especially if they find out that some sort of incendiary device, some sort of bomb was used to create additional fire, that there's definitely that chance of some sort of booby trap in this person's residence. So yes, all those precautions will be taking place and will slow down the process of being able to secure these additional crime scenes and conduct their searches.
Scott, before we let you go, we are expecting another update from police at 5 p.m. local time. From the information that police have already shared to that, what specifically are you keeping a very close eye on? Was there anything in the very latest, the initial press conference that stood out to you? And as you look ahead to the next press conference, what are you hoping as a former FBI agent to learn a little bit more?
Ultimately, we're trying in law enforcement to deter. As we can see, these are on the rise, they're increasing. And ultimately, I think with regards to law enforcement, realizing once they do their searches and their subsequent interviews, that there's always some sort of leak. And ultimately, how do researchers and law enforcement in the community put that together to create some sort of deterrence model where people are being deterred? And if they're not being deterred, at least people are calling in to say, I have tremendous amount of suspicions for this particular person I'm in contact with. And so thereby law enforcement can get in front of that person and prevent an act before it becomes so tragic like this. And I would think at the press conference, I don't think we're going to learn a whole lot more about the individual other than maybe where this person did for a living, et cetera, what type of background they have, if there's some sort of military background, law enforcement background, or some sort of bond making. But I do think we'll get a little bit more on the additional victims that could be within the church if that fire is brought under control where law enforcement can get inside.
All right, Scott Duffy, former FBI agent, as always, we appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you.
And I did want to share this live look with you of the scene as we continue to follow the very latest information of this breaking news, as we now know that one person is dead, 10 others injured at least, and the gunman dead after a shooting in the Mormon church. And I also wanted to share this with you. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has just issued the following statement regarding this tragedy, stating, quote, "A tragic act of violence occurred today at a chapel of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. During Sunday worship services, a gunman opened fire, and early reports indicate that multiple individuals were injured. We ask for cooperation with local authorities as details become available." The church is in communication with local law enforcement as the investigation continues and as we receive updates on the conditions of those affected. We offer thanks to the emergency responders who are assisting victims and families. We are deeply grateful for the outpouring of prayers and concern from so many people around the world. In moments of sorrow and uncertainty, we find strength and comfort through our faith in Jesus Christ. Places of worship are meant to be sanctuaries of peacemaking, prayer, and connection. We pray for the peace and healing for all involved. So that was a statement made by a church spokesperson as they are also working with law enforcement agencies as well. I also wanted to share this live look with you. This is another vantage point right here from Grand Blanc, Michigan, and we did want to transition to that. This is another look as the investigation continues at this hour. You can see the mobile command post now arriving right here as the FBI, ATF, federal, local, state agencies are all working to learn more and to get more information on this breaking news. We do see that they are now going towards the scene where the media has been kept fairly far back because of the enormous fire that was underway at the church. That fire has since been extinguished. But still that perimeter, again, is there because of the continuing safety concern. So This is another look of that very same area. This is courtesy of WXYZ. And we also wanted to dip back into our Fox 2 Detroit coverage. I'm taking a look right now, and it does appear that they are continuing their coverage. So we're going to dip into that as we follow this breaking news.
BRIANTAYLOR. Yeah. And you were shot today.
Shot at.
Shot
Luckily, yeah, the windshield, this is just shrapnel from the windshield that was as he shot at our car as we were trying to drive away.
And that's your car, the purple one?
Yeah, the maroon Flex. Yeah.
I got a picture of it or a little video of it. Tell me what was going through your head as that kind of was transpiring.
Honestly, get my wife away and find my son.
So your son wasn't with you. Do you know where he was?
He was in a, sorry, that makes me a little more. He was in another vehicle. We were on the phone with him. He was ducked down in another vehicle trying to just lay low.
And you ended up getting in contact with him and he was okay.
And there was the gentleman, as you just heard, who was trying to drive away from the gunfire moments after just the horrific events played out at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township earlier this morning. We know it was around 10:25 this morning that gunfire started erupting. We know a suspect, a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, Michigan, drove to the church, rammed his vehicle into the front doors, got out, and just opened fire, unleashed his gun. And we do know that it was an assault rifle. That is what the chief of police indicated earlier during that press conference, that it was an assault rifle that was used, that there was a DNR officer as well as another police officer that were able to get close to the gunman. They were able to have an exchange of gunfire, and they were able to take that suspect down. We do know it was a 40-year-old suspect from Burton, Michigan. Charlie.
So still a lot of questions to be answered. Some of them, of course, is why the gunman did what he did. It appears to be delivered on a Sunday service, hundreds of people in the church. He obviously had a lot of rounds. He prepared for that. Don't know how many weapons he had. I don't know if the weapon's been recovered. Don't know if the ammunition, the bullets have been recovered. A lot. Ballistics can tell. Usually they call it ATF. But we do know the feds around the scene. We do know that FBI people there are talking, special agents are talking to the people that were in that church. That's one thing. We also don't know the mechanics. How did he get into the church? The police chief seemed to say that he smashed his car through the front door of the church, which, that in and of itself is a little hard to do. And then he started opening fire. How he set the fire, we believe that it was a deliberately set fire, but how did he do it? How could he set a fire so much that it caused that church to become so fully engulfed and really so quickly? Some people apparently were able to get out. We just saw the one person that was there. He got out. It looks like he says his windshield was hit by the bullets. Again, I think that these are things that the police are going to have to put together, the authorities are going to have to put together to determine why this happened. And again, we now know that the feds, the state, and local authorities all involved. They are focusing now on Grand Blanc, Michigan, and at this church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, it really is all hands on deck right now. Everybody descending on Grand Blanc Township, just trying to help piece this all together and try and figure out why what happened this morning took place in the first place. And this is going to take a while. There were hundreds and hundreds of people who were inside the church at the time of the shooting. As Charlie mentioned earlier, many of these people were brought to a secure location so investigators could begin interviewing them. And they need to talk to each and every one of these people to try and get a sense as to how this happened. And that is going to help them piece together a motive and why this all took place in the first place. I mean, just horrific. The fact that 10 people were shot. We know that one person was killed, multiple people in critical condition, multiple people in stable condition. And from what I understand, Ingrid Kelly, she is out at the scene right now. She's been able to track down a resident there. Ingrid, let's send it over to you. Fill us in on what you've got there.
Hey, yes, we are still here at this scene. I'm joined by Nancy Ott, who is a resident here who actively, she needs to get back home. Talk to me a little bit about this morning as this was going down. What did you see? What did you hear?
I didn't see or hear anything. I was at church myself, but
Not this church.
right? My Holy Family Church. And my husband sent me a text, and he was all upset. He said he heard some shotgun or gunshots and a loud boom. And he's almost 81, and he was really shook up. And in the meantime, our pastor came right back into the church at the end, and he said, if you live near McCandlish and Holly Road, you can't get in there right now. There's been a shooting or something. Apparently, the police came to our church and let him know something. And so I went to my brother's, who only lives 4 miles away, and I've been there until now. And I thought I'd try to come back and get home because my husband's home alone. And
he's 80. He's elderly.
He's elderly. We both are. But anyway, I didn't want to leave him alone for too long. And
what did police say in terms of you getting back home?
Well, they said I couldn't go past that yellow ribbon because some other vehicles like these were going to be coming through. And I said, well, I can walk through the yards. I mean, my house is just right there. And he said, no, I'm sorry, ma'am. And I understand, but.
How long are you prepared to stay out here?
Well, thankfully, my brother lives only 4 miles away. I'll just go back to their house and stay as long as I have to. So.
Yeah, exactly. Just talk to me about something happening. What do you know about the Church of Latter-day Saints? I know it's not your church, but what can you tell us because it's in your residential area?
I always thought it was nice to have churches as neighbors because they're usually quiet and peaceful, and we've never had any problems or anything with them, and they're quiet. And it's nice to have churches nearby.
I know that they said there were quite a few people in there when this incident happened. I mean, this is the main road to the church on any given Sunday. How busy is it with people coming and going?
On the weekends, it's fairly busy, but not extreme. I think when you go into town, it's busier. It's quiet. This is a quiet area. It's close to town, but it feels like you're out in the country.
Yeah. And what do you know about the church's mission and everything like that? Do you see a lot of activities going on there, family activities?
I really don't know much about the church at all. I know they've had visitors come walking through our neighborhood and knocking on doors once or twice. And I've always been pleasant. I mean,
Well, Miss Ott,
Ingrid, are you there?
Get home soon?
Me too.
Yes, I am. And I think Charlie has a question. Yes, yeah. I'm listening.
Let me ask the resident a question real quick. And then you may have covered, and I apologize. The church there, have they had any type of security issues? Have they ever had any disruptions in the church? Anything along those lines?
This is Charlie Langton. He would like to know, have there been any sort of disruptions at the church, any type of security issues at the church over the years that you are aware of?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
Yeah, it's peaceful.
It's peaceful. It's a peaceful area.
How many people are at this church? Is this a very popular church in the area?
I was asking her that earlier. Just the activity and the amount of people that go back and forth. The chief did say there were quite a few people in the church at the time of this incident. But on any particular given Sunday, how many hundreds of cars? What do you see?
I take my dog for a walk early in the morning, and maybe a few cars coming and going, but I think that's earlier than when they come for church. I don't know what time it starts. And on the Sundays, I'm getting ready for my church, so I'm busy.
Exactly.
Good. One more.
Yeah.
Can I ask, is she a little worried now that she lives so close to the church that maybe she's going to do something differently? Maybe get more video or take extra precaution because of all this?
Charlie just wants to know, because you live so close to the church and in light of this incident, do you plan on beefing up security at your home?
I haven't really thought about it. Probably not. The one thing I did say to my husband when I did talk to him, I said, don't answer the door for anybody because you don't know.
Exactly.
And he had talked to our son earlier who lives in Warren, but he was upset and he had to talk to somebody. And he said the same thing, Dad, just go do your thing in the basement and don't answer the door.
Yeah. So we know that this man is 40 years old. He's from Burden. What does that say? I mean, he drove through the doors of the church. He shot 10 people. He's now deceased. There's one victim. that's deceased, and they believe that there may be more. They believe that he also set a fire there. Just listening to the details of this incident, and it's in your backyard. What are you thinking?
I never thought it would come this far to our area, but living out here, you just don't hear about things like that. Yep, not close by, not my backyard. So we live in rough times.
Thank you so much.
We do thank our Fox 2 Detroit team for that coverage as we continue to follow breaking news. Here's a live look at the scene after a gunman used his vehicle to barrel into a Mormon church in Grand Blanc, Michigan. He then got out and started firing an assault rifle. One person confirmed dead, at least 10 others injured, and the gunman was also killed after police officers neutralized him. Those are the phrasing of the police chief right there. Meanwhile, a fire was set in the church. Police do believe that the fire was deliberately set, and because of just the sheer magnitude of the fire, firefighters and first responders were unable to safely get inside the church. The fire has now since been extinguished, although from this live look, you can still see some of the smoke coming from that scene. Because of that, the police chief did say that they do believe that they will find additional victims inside the church. And we were hearing from our Fox 2 Detroit team, speaking with a woman who lives in this area, indicating that this church was quite popular. And according to the police chief, hundreds of people were inside the church for a service when the gunman drove his vehicle into the front doors and then started shooting. Right now, next steps, according to the police, are that they will be executing search warrants at the gunman's home. They will be pouring through cell phone records, trying to determine a motive. The FBI and the ATF are also there. We were hearing from FBI Director Kash Patel, as well as Attorney General Pam Bondi, who indicated that the organizations will be assisting local and state agencies as well. The police chief did indicate that they will be holding another update at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and we will be carrying that once it does get underway. We are going to be stepping away for a brief break, but it's a very busy Sunday, and we do have more breaking news to let you know about, as we have just learned that New York City Mayor Eric Adams has just announced he will drop his bid for re-election. He did share a video statement that we did want to play out, as well as a reaction from New York Governor Kathy Hochul and the front runner in the New York City mayoral race, Mandami. We'll be right back.
This is where we are going to say so long from this tragedy. It's a breaking news out of Michigan, where a lone gunman opened fire at a church, mass shooting at a church. You just heard that. We're going to break away from this and say thank you all very much for joining us. Till you hear my voice again, I'm Jeffrey Tavares saying so long. May God bless, and may God bless you all.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.